Father Claudio Doglio presents The Passion of Jesus according to St. Matthew. This is video 14, the last one. Jesus is laid in a new tomb. Jesus brings faith and life. The centurion, present at the foot of the cross along with the others who guarded, seeing what was happening, were seized with great fear and recognized that Jesus was truly the Son of God. Good Friday is for us Christians the triumph of life. It is the victory of Christ. It is the demonstration that his style of abandonment and trust in the Father is the correct one. We don't do the funeral of Jesus. We don't remember simply his dramatic and painful death. We recognize that he is really the Son of God, and although he ended up like that, he is the victor. The evangelist Matthew, following the traditional narrative, presents many women who, although from a distance, had followed Jesus. They had come with him from Galilee. They had come to serve him. The Greek verb diakoneo is used, which gives rise to the sacramental term diaconate. The commitment to service of these women now becomes attentive observation. They observe with care what happens, and among them, Matthew remembers Mary of Magdala, Mary the wife of Cleophas, and mother of James and Joseph, plus the mother of the son of the Zebedee, who we know was called Salome. Only these three names are explicit of the many women who were present. During the night, another important and decisive character arrives on Jesus' historical journey, a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph. Only Matthew specifies that he was rich, perhaps to allude to the great poem of the servant of Isaiah, chapter 53, where it is said that his tomb was next to that of the rich man. Certainly, Joseph of Arimathea, an influential member of the Jewish Sanhedrin, was a rich man and is said to have become a disciple of Jesus. Luke stresses that he was waiting for the kingdom of God, and John points out that he had not come before dawn because he was afraid of the Jews. But now this man dares to go outside. While the disciples have abandoned the master and fled, an outsider, one of the Jews belonging to that powerful environment that hated and condemned Jesus, intervenes on his behalf, commits himself on the very eve of Passover, appears before Pilate and asks for the body of Jesus. If he had not asked for it, the body would have been thrown into a common grave without honor, without the possibility of verifying the absence of the body. Joseph took the body of Jesus and wrapped it in a clean sheet. In Greek, the term used is shroud, and hence we use this word, the shroud. And Matthew emphasizes that it is a clean sheet in the sense of new, beautiful, and prepared to receive the body of Jesus in a new tomb. Again, Matthew adds an adjective. He says that the tomb was new, which means was no one who had been there yet. And it is an anticipation of the novelty of the burial of Jesus. Joseph had just had that tomb dug in the rock, and no one in his family had not yet been deposited there. It was probably intended as a temporary solution, and in fact, it was really temporary, the stay of Jesus in that new tomb. And the great stone rolled away at the entrance of the tomb becomes a guarantee for those who will verify the disappearance of the body. Again, Matthew emphasizes the presence of the women. They are seated before the tomb, waiting, vigilant. They are the figure of the church that does not give up and lives, hopefully waiting for the fulfillment of the promises, the promised salvation of Christ. The narrative of the Passion according to Matthew ends with a special episode of the first evangelist in which is emphasized a particular hostility of the Jews who, on the day of the Parasheve, which would be the Sabbath, violate the rules of the Sabbath and of the Passover feast and enter the house of a pagan like Pilate, because they do have a problem. They remembered that Jesus had announced his own resurrection on the third day. They do not want to call him by his name, but call him insultingly as that impostor that the evangelist presents the vision of the adversaries that they consider Jesus as a deceiver of the people. They asked therefore Pilate to have the tomb guarded to prevent the theft of the corpse and the spreading of false news of a lasting posture that would be worse than all the others. Their defense of the tomb will prove that there was no body theft. It was providential. Pilate grants that the grants be there, and the guard goes and checks. The soldiers of Rome and the Jewish authorities cooperate to check that there is no human intervention to take away the dead body of Jesus. They went and secured the tomb, but put the seals on the stone and left the guards there. The story ends in suspense. The Sabbath is the day of great silence and rest. The resting of the body of Jesus in the tomb is a sign of trust, of abandonment in God, of the certainty that the power of love will overcome the power of sin and death. At the beginning of his historical human life, Jesus was taken in by a man named Joseph, who took care of him while Herod tried to kill him. At the end of his historical human experience, Jesus was taken in by another man named Joseph, who cared for his body, honored him, and providentially ensured the resurrection experience. The silence and rest of the Holy Saturday prelude the great victory of Easter. The angel of the Lord overthrows the stone and defeats the overbearing presumption of the guards and the authorities who tried to impede God's project. We trust in this story that is in God's hands, and with the trusting attitude of Jesus to the end, we believe in the good power of the Lord who gives life, and on this Good Friday, we celebrate the triumph of love and life. There were many women there, looking on from a distance, who had followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him. Among them were Mary Magdalene and Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who was himself a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered to be handed over. Taking the body, Joseph wrapped it in a clean linen and laid it in a new tomb that he had hewn in the rock. Then he rolled a huge stone across the entrance of the tomb and departed. But Mary Magdalene and the other Mary remained sitting there, facing the tomb. The next day, the one following to the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember that this impostor, while still alive, said, 'After 3 days I will be raised up.' Give orders then that the grave be secured until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come and steal him and say to the people, 'He has been raised from the dead.' This last imposture would be worse than the first." Pilate said to them, "The guard is yours. Go secure it as best as you can." So they went and secured the tomb by fixing a seal to the stone and setting the guard.
A ti paghiamo, Signore.